Good morning, everyone.
You're supposed to stand here.
Good morning.
You have to stand here.
My name is Michael Pastro. I am the mayor of the City of New London, and I'm also proud to be the president of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities this year. I stand here with a very strong coalition of municipal leaders, representatives of the councils of government, and some great legislators to advocate for the restoration of the Mohegan Pequot funding for our municipalities. We have a great advocate with us in Senator Kathy Olston. We're going to hear from Senator Heather Summers. We're also going to hear from Representative Bill Pizzuto, Middlebury First Selectman Jennifer Marr, Montville Mayor Lenny Bunnell, and Representative Antonio Felipe and Brian O'Connor on behalf of CCM. I'd like to just quickly paint a picture for the importance of Senate Bill 388 to my city, the City of New London. 20% of the families in my city live below the poverty threshold. This is not acceptable. I lead a city that is comprised predominantly of the working poor. The burden for providing municipal services to the 48% of my city that is tax exempt falls upon the working poor. 60% of the city revenue, of my city's revenue, comes from property taxes. 30% of the revenue comes from the state. The regressive nature of our property, of our principal resource, the property tax, precludes my ability to simply increase property taxes without increasing the harm to our families. Tax-exempt properties and unfunded state mandates make my city heavily dependent on state aid to maintain municipal services. But this is what's happening to the state aid over the last decade and more. The amount of state aid to my city has decreased from 41% of revenues in 2017 to just 33% of our revenues in 2026. This has required a dramatic cut in municipal services, and most importantly, it disproportionately affects our school children and the city's ability to support our education system. Now, for the good news, and this has been a great legislative session with great hope for us, because we have found a path. To my left is one of the great champions, Senator Kathy Olston, who's been leading the charge. It was a great injustice a decade or more ago when the Mohegan Pequot Fund revenues, which were intended for municipalities, especially municipalities like mine, started to be diverted because of the state's own fiscal woes. That diversion has continued to this day, even though the state is much more healthier financially. There is no longer a need for the state to continue to divert those funds. The Mohegan Pequot Fund was created when Lowell Weicker gave our native tribes a monopoly on gaming. Those revenues were meant to support our municipalities in this state, especially the municipalities impacted by gaming. It's time to restore that funding. Senate Bill 388 does it. We are encouraged by the amount of support we have today, and we're going to hear from some of those advocates. I'd like to first turn it over to the champion for many years of restoring this funding, and that's Senator Kathy Olston. Thank you, Senator.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see all of you here today. It's vitally important that we get people to stand up and support this funding. So this year's bill is Senate Bill 388. We can call it whatever we want to call it, but it is restoring the Mashantucket Mohegan Pequot Fund to the level that it was when we first started gaming in this state. We're not even trying to get it to the level it should be based on inflation over the last 25 years. So 25 years ago or so, we were receiving $150 million that was parsed out amongst every single town and municipality. Today, it's down to $54 million that is being parsed out amongst those towns, and some towns have been brought down to zero, even if they are supposedly supposed to be receiving funds. So every town in this state was supposed to receive funding out of this fund. And both tribal nations have been by my side every year that I have submitted this bill. I'm on my 5th year of submitting this bill to say that it should be parsed out to every town and municipality. Actually, the money is split directly down the middle, where the state would keep 50% of the gaming funds and the towns would split 50% of the gaming funds. The fact is that in particular in Eastern Connecticut, the great preponderance of the consequences of us having two very successful industries in Eastern Connecticut should be receiving the great preponderance of the funds. But that's not what happens. And this change in both the formulaic part of the Mashantucket Pequot Fund and making sure that the dollars are there would help out municipalities. It is not designed to be dedicated towards any specific fund that a municipality needs, but to have them make a decision based on their respective needs that they have in their communities. Could help out education, could help out public works, could help out tax relief for their residents. These are things that we should be getting through the gate. Now, if you ever think that this hasn't happened before, under Governor Rowland, Governor Rell, and Governor Malloy, we were in a different position as a state, and we were holding on to those revenues. We're not there anymore. We're not there anymore. We have a healthy rainy day fund. We have paid down our pension obligations. We see, even this year, where there will be a little bit of a downturn on some revenue, our volatility cap is $1.8 billion in return to the state. We still have the capacity to do this. And in that 5-year time frame, it's passed out of appropriations every year at 100% of appropriations. All of us see, every one of the legislators here today, see the need to help out our municipalities. They all know that this is the right thing to do. Both tribal nations that provide us with this revenue, they're two of the single largest taxpayers and two of the largest employers in the state, and they want to see this money go to municipalities. That's been their commitment every single year that this bill has had. One year we got it passed by both the House and the Senate, and the governor vetoed it. So our goal is to get it passed by the House and the Senate this session, and have the governor sign it, and start returning these funds, as they should be, into municipal governments to support them, and to start turning the tide on excessive property taxes. That's what the goal is here. That's why we're doing this, and it's very important for us to get this done. I thank you all for coming today. I thank everybody that's here for coming today and standing with us in this effort and endeavor to get this through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your great advocacy. Another advocate for correcting this historic injustice and restoring the Mohegan Pequot funding for municipalities is the senator from the 18th District, which includes the Mashantucket Tribal Nation, and that's Heather Summers.
That's me. I'm Mashantucket. She's Sister Pequot.
That's okay.
Okay, I stand corrected. Kathy represents both tribes.
I do.
I have
Okay.
Kristen too. That's part of the prize.
Yeah.
All
We
right,
share.
Senator Heather
Share
Summers.
everything.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So Kathy and I have the honor of sharing some of the tribes and some of the towns that are greatly impacted by having two of the largest casinos in the world in our backyard. Today, for me, I've signed on to this bill for probably the last 5 years. This is something that the legislature has wanted, the House wanted it, the Senate wanted it. The governor has vetoed it in the past, as you have heard, but as you've heard from Senator Austin, we have the capacity to make this happen this year. This is a promise that was made to our municipalities when we first entered the agreement with the two tribal nations, and it is a promise that has not been honored. It's time to make good on the promises that this legislature has made and that governors in the past have made. For me, this is really about fairness and keeping our promise to Connecticut's towns and their cities. As a former mayor, the only way that you have to raise funds for your town is property taxes. Everyone knows that property taxes in Connecticut are excessive. You're taxing people on unrealized gains, and it is coming to the point, it has been at the point, of a tipping point. This will add some relief for municipalities across Connecticut. I would like to see an emphasis on Eastern Connecticut because we are the most impacted. However, every city, every town should be having an ability to have some of these funds come back to them. That was the agreement that was made. So for 25 years, this fund has worked exactly as it intended, supporting every municipality across the state, helping communities plan and deliver services that they vitally need and that many times we mandate that they have to provide. Since 2019, the state has overridden the original formula and redirected these funds. As a result, 45 municipalities are now receiving nothing, zero, not one dime. And others have had redirections. That's a significant departure from what was agreed to. And those decisions were made during difficult times. And as you have heard today, we're not completely out of the woods, but we are in a much better spot and we have the capacity to move this bill forward. Given that progress, it is time to reinvest in our towns and our cities. This is where people in Connecticut are most intimately impacted by taxes. As the ranking member on the Appropriations Committee, I work with Senator Austin, and I take seriously our responsibility to balance the state budget while also supporting our municipalities. This effort reflects both priorities, and this has bipartisan support that our towns should be receiving these funds, and I want the towns to know the legislature, so far, appropriations, bipartisan, very large committee, has your backs. We want to see this happen. This fund also represents a longstanding partnership between the state and the two tribal nations. That partnership means making sure these revenues that are generated continue to benefit the communities in Connecticut just as they were intended to. So at the end of the day, restoring this fund is about keeping our word, keeping our promise, and making sure we're strengthening our communities and cities throughout the state of Connecticut, making sure every town has the resources it needs to thrive and has an opportunity to choose how to use those resources. We have the means to do it. We have the will in the legislature. So let's get it done. And Governor, if you're listening, sign the bill.
Now I'd like to, thank you, Senator. Now I'd like to invite up to the podium Representative Bill Pizzuto.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to be here. What my colleagues have said before me, anytime a sovereign nation decides to share its profits with our cities and towns, we should not stand in the way. I was able to, I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill with my colleagues, and to think that the cities and towns don't need that money, they live in a dream world. the ECS funding and so forth is not there, but yet our rainy day funds and our state budget is fully funded. So what I'd like to see is the support that these towns and cities need. I represent Middlebury and Waterbury. Our first selectman is here from Middlebury today, and they can tell you what their needs are. We should never have anyone encumber those funds. We should receive those in their entirety, and I thank you for being here and for supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And now I'd like you to hear from a municipal leader, Middlebury First Selectman Jennifer Marr.
Good morning. On behalf of the 45 Connecticut towns excluded from the Mashantucket Pequot grant funding, I call for the restoration of a program that was never intended to leave communities out. The Mashantucket Pequot grant was created with a clear purpose: to distribute a portion of casino-generated revenue back to municipalities across the state, recognizing that this revenue is a shared state asset. Yet these 45 towns have been removed from that distribution, and for no legitimate reason. These communities are home to approximately 232,000 homeowner households, nearly 250,000 families who support local services, maintain infrastructure, and contribute to the strength of Connecticut's economy. And they're not just participants, they're contributors. Residents in these 45 towns generate an estimated $2.7 to $3.2 billion annually in Connecticut state income taxes, helping to fund programs and services across the state. And at the same time, Connecticut has one of the strongest fiscal positions in its history, with a fully funded rainy day fund and also continual operating surpluses above the budget that we've set. Most importantly, the Governor and the General Assembly have made clear that their priorities include expanding affordable housing and making Connecticut more affordable for our residents. That is exactly why this issue matters. When state funding is reduced or eliminated, the burden does not disappear. It shifts directly onto local taxpayers through increased property taxes or reduced services like public safety, infrastructure, and education, all of which makes it harder, not easier, for residents to afford to live in their communities. If we are serious about affordability, we cannot ignore the impact of state decisions at the local level. When the state has billions in reserve, ongoing surpluses, and a program built to share revenue statewide, there is no justification for leaving entire communities out of a program that they were a part of to begin with. Can we look in the mirror and honestly say that we are aligning our policies with our priorities? The answer in this case is no. Restoring this funding for all Connecticut municipalities will reaffirm the original purpose of the grant as a statewide revenue sharing program, protect nearly 232,000 homeowners from increased financial burden, support local governments in maintaining services without shifting costs onto residents, and advance the state's broader goal of keeping Connecticut affordable. This is one of the few times when the solution to a problem is easy and straightforward and within our reach. We can be sure that our policies actually make life more affordable for the people we serve, and we have a duty to do so. Please support Senate Bill 388 and tell the governor to sign it. Thank you.
Thank you, First Select Woman. And now the mayor of the town of Montville, which includes the Mohegan Tribal Nation.
Thank you, Michael. As you have all heard from the speakers before me, this legislation represents an important step restoring critical funding to the municipalities. Senate Bill 388 addresses the original intent of providing necessary dollars for effective property tax relief, particularly for host towns. By supporting this bill, the legislature has an opportunity to promote fairness, strengthen public trust, and ensure that our collective policies reflect the needs and values of the people we serve. Measures like these are essential to building a stronger, more equitable Connecticut. My name is Lenny Bunnell. I'm the mayor of the town of Montville and a retired police officer for 42 years with the town of Montville. I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the impact the casinos have had on Montville as a host town. I've also had the privilege of being part of the growing partnership between the Mohegan Tribe and the town of Montville, a partnership that recognizes the benefit that we have for each other in terms of growth and development. While both Montville and the Mohegan Tribe have worked together to build that relationship, there is also an undeniable fact the town has been impacted by their growth. So I want to, rather than repeat everything that everybody has said before me, I want to give you a little bit of a comparison. And it's an important comparison because while the comparison is between two small rural towns, Colchester and Montville, which in 1994 were very similar. For policing needs, for example, the town of Colchester in 94 had a police budget of $305,000. Montville had a police budget of $788,000. Today, 30 years later, the Colchester police budget is at $2 million. Everything grows, we know that. While the Montville police budget is at over $4 million. That's double. This is a direct effect of the impact of the casinos. With a growing population in Montville has seen an expansion in education costs, public works, general government, operational costs, and police activity. As you know, on top of all that, the costs in general have substantially increased. Collectively, this demonstrates the urgent need for the passage of this bill. And I'm sure that I speak for all the residents of Montville and all of Connecticut when I express my strong support for Senate Bill 388 and urge the successful passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bunnell. And now I'd like to invite to the podium Representative Antonio Felipe.
Good morning. Serving on the Appropriations Committee under Kathy Austin and Tony Walker, you learn a few things over the years, and I learned that at some point this state was in a deficit, and when we were in that deficit, they started to sweep this fund, and all of that is coming to fruition now. Yet Senator Austin for the last 5 years has been talking about how we use this fund to better our communities, and I think that's super important, especially from us in the city of Bridgeport. I chair the Housing Committee. I also chair the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, so every day I hear from people and I see struggle and I understand struggle. And then everybody else who hasn't spoken to me from other caucuses, from other communities, tell me that they're struggling too. Us in the city of Bridgeport, when I talk about the city of Bridgeport education funding, we are struggling immensely. But when I look at the budget of the state of Connecticut, while we are not as vast as some may say, we are not struggling right now. We are in a position to make sure that we are providing relief to the people that need it the most. By doing what we are trying to do right now and passing this bill, we are putting ourselves in a position to relieve burden instead of passing it on to the next person. We need to stop passing on burdens that this state right now doesn't exactly have. We need to make sure that we are providing to the entire state of Connecticut. I know Senator Summers wants to focus in on Eastern Connecticut. I'm just saying I hope we share it to Southwestern Connecticut as well. But it is extremely important that we get this past the finish line. We've been talking about it for 5 years. 5 years is too long. Let's get this done now. And once again, as Senator Summers says, the governor sees this, sign the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And now, to wrap it up, representing this great coalition of Connecticut's municipalities, CCM's Brian O'Connor.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming today. You know, as you can hear, the compelling messages from our cities, our host communities, as well as our small towns, the importance of this funding. It could be used for, as they mentioned before, public works, education shortfalls. And I think what you have to keep in mind is that we have over $4 billion surplus. If not now, when? we restore this funding. It's supposed to be a partnership between the state and our municipalities and our tribal nations. And I think what we're looking for is just a fairness to this. And I think the towns, again, have made a compelling reason for it. And I think the other thing too is that the over-reliance on the property tax has helped create and foster some of the affordability crisis that we're going through today. So the restoration of these funds will be a good first step in trying to get some parity within these funds being distributed out to our municipalities, but also provide some stability for our municipalities that are facing budget crunches, whether it be on the Board of Ed side or even town government. So again, thank you very much for coming today, and if there's any questions, obviously we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, everybody.
See, are there any questions? Senator Austin is standing by.
Oh, I hope you all guys have a really wonderful day, but I suggest that you call your legislators to get this bill through the legislature and then call the governor to have him sign it.
Thank you, Senator.